Hi, it's Sandy Parker and welcome to Crafting for Almost Everyone. Today we're going to make a congratulations card for one of our college professors who's retiring, and it's going to be a little bit fun and unusual. I hope you'll stay tuned. So what I decided to do is I want to make a 5x7 card with this, I think it's Hero Arts, yeah, it's a stamp and cut set that's called Congrats. And it says, congratulations, we're so happy for you, and then it's time to celebrate. So we're going to put congrats, we're so happy for you on the front, and it's time to celebrate on the inside. But I wanted to heat emboss the words on the front first, and then I'll show you the techniques I'm going to do with some oxide inks that I think will be kind of fun and frisky. And I'm hoping that I get this to stamp well. Hold on, I gotta put my little powder puffy on there. Just make sure that you don't get any smudges from your fingers, or you don't have any left behind crumbs of your embossing powder left behind, in case you didn't know. And it's just what I made, that was just cornstarch that I put in a doubled over nylon. No, it was a knee-high. And then I just knotted it because I wanted to see if I could make my own, and so I did. And then I've bought a bunch since, but honestly, I like that one the best because it really puts out a lot of powder, and it's important that you get a lot of powder when you're doing this. I want this to be nice and black, and when I do these kinds of things, I often stamp that 2-3 times for my sentiments, because I'd like to make sure they're nice and dark. Okay, that's pretty good. We're going to take this out and put our clear embossing powder on it. And I keep mine in one of these Ziploc containers, and I use one of the medicine cups. I like the little medicine cup because I get a lot of powder on it, and then I can just kind of tilt it back into the bowl. And sometimes I don't make a mess, like that time, shockingly enough. I use Versafine Onyx Black ink, if you didn't know. It's a very dark ink. It's also a pigment ink, so that means that it stays wet longer than a dye-based ink. And so it gives you longer time to put your powder on. Let me start my gun. You always want to preheat your gun. And then all you're going to do is move it across your image until they change. You'll see them go from matte to shiny, and once they turn shiny, move on. Then I divided my paper into thirds. There, see the little line right there and little line right there? What we're going to do with that, I'm going to use something else for this. I'm going to use some Distress Oxide inks, and I'm going to use some different ribbon. It's a felt ribbon that I bought at a Hallmark store last year, right after Christmas, when they were getting rid of their Christmas supplies. Now they call these Christmas supplies. I would not call these Christmas supplies. It's cool though. Anyway, so what I want to do is I'm going to get a piece of scrap paper. I'm going to use 3 colors. I'm going to use pink at the top. I'm going to use Broken China, so the pink is Picked Raspberry, then Broken China in the middle, and Wilted Violet at the bottom, so that it's going to be a very colorful card. Make a mess. I'm going to use these brushes that I bought on AliExpress to do my coloring, and I'm going to put 2 pieces of paper. I'm opening my card and putting 1 piece in the middle of the card, and then 1 piece behind it, so that I don't get anything on my card base, like the inside, the back, or on my desk. So that's the system I went with. And I was trying to find my bone folder. I can't find it, so I'm going to just use a ruler. Hey, if you don't have a bone folder, you can just make do. There. So I have this laminated grid, and I'm going to just lay this on my card so that I can stay on the spot that I want to stay on. I don't want to end up having my edges blur to the next color. I'm going to try and get more washi tape off than this, because clearly this is one of those rolls that just doesn't want to play with me. In case that's never happened to you, it's one of my pet peeves in life, are washi tape rolls that decide that they either don't want to stick or don't want to come off their roll. Either way, it's annoying. I heard you can just run your heat gun over it and maybe it'll reactivate the sticky part of it, but I've never tried that. Okay, so that's where we stand right now. I'm going to get my stuff out of the way. And like I said, we're starting at the top with the pink. I really like doing this. This is what I really like doing. I'm just going to do it. It's so much easier if you just go like this with your ink pad over whatever you're working on, because then you can get a lot of ink transferred at once, and then take your brush and move it around, blend it in. I'm telling you, it's so much easier than trying to get that much ink onto your project. All right, so I have a wet paper towel. It's damp, not wet, and I'm just gonna wipe across the words so that we can make sure that we get the embossing to show up again. Okay, then I'm just going to, I think I'm going to pick this up and just wipe it off so I don't get any pink transferred where I don't want it. We're going to go with the blue, and I need to protect my pink area too. So, okay, I'm just going to put a little bit of washi at that. Next color is Broken China, as I already said, and I'm gonna move this side up a little bit. And that side just a little bit. Okay, I think we're good. And I'm just gonna go across the center. Woo! With my Broken China. Okay. Then I'm going to use a sponge this time and see if the sponge will blend it. Probably won't. I have to get another brush. Okay. Next up, we're going to go to the purple at the bottom, and that's going to be Wilted Violet. It's always important that you don't get your card into the paper that you've already gotten ink on, because that ink doesn't dry fast and you'll end up transferring it. And I just remembered that I have it on this little border here. Better take my little border off, because I don't want to end up with that blue back on my purple part of my card. And I told you this was Wilted Violet. I make sure I get that line. Okay. Now, I know that I've got gaps, but I don't really care about those gaps, because I think I already told you that one of the things that I really want to do is use up some of this really cool, it's called felt ribbon, and I have 3 colors of it. I don't think I'm going to use the pink. I think I'm just going to use the blue and the purple, or turquoise and purple. And what I think I'm going to do, it was weird when I got it, it had like partial rolls. I've never seen anything like this. See how there's 2, I don't know what was going on there. Here's my plan. I'm going to put a blue piece right there, and then I'm going to put a purple piece down below. I'm going to cut it a little bit longer just to keep making sure that I don't end up cutting it too short. You know how that goes. You never want to cut anything too short if you can avoid it. There's the blue line. Then to get this felt ribbon attached, I'm going to use a wet glue because I used, before when I played with it, it really was hard to adhere with anything else. I tried putting it through my Xyron, it didn't work. I mean, I tried a bunch of different things and none of it really worked. So this is my plan, is to go with this. So I'm going to put the blue in the middle, well, a little bit below the words. I'm just going to run some wet glue along the back of it. And it's a really heavy felt, so you really need enough wet glue to make sure that you're going to get it to stay in place. So put as much glue on it as you think, and make sure that if you have little, like how this has these little gaps, you really want to make sure that those are all stay glued down. So put a little bit more glue than you think. I'm not going to make you watch me glue both of them. I'll just have Rich fast forward through this so you don't have to experience glue 101 on felt ribbon. And then I'll have to trim a little bit off this left edge. I'm going to put a couple of these on while I'm gluing the other piece. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put it about a third of the way, not even, a little bit of the way into the color above it. I'm going to move it that way because I'm going to cut off the end that's not, that isn't, see, this end is straight and has a border on it like this one does. So I moved this one so it's on the edge of the card so that I can trim off this one. Same with this edge. You want to get rid of the edge that's not, that isn't a straight edge. I really kind of wanted to use the pink ribbon too. I'm going to cut the edge of my card too because it's, the right edge is a little bit longer. You know how sometimes when you score, you'll have a little bit more on one side versus the other. I don't know, just saying. And while I'm doing all this, I think I'm going to stamp the other sentiment in the inside of the card. Now I'm going to get another scrap piece of paper and stamp the sentiment on it to make sure that it's straight. The last thing I want to do is go to all this work, then stamp the inside sentiment and realize that the words that I put these little acrylic stamps, that the words weren't lined up properly, or I put them on backwards or did something stupid. That looks pretty good. And I'm wiping off any excess that got on the block, because that's another thing that happens to me. I'm sure it happens to all of you too, that you get your block, a little ink on your block, and then all of a sudden you've got a weird spot of black ink in the middle of your card. Okay, I think I'm going to put it right there, and I'm going to leave it there for a second to transfer the ink and make sure I get as much of the ink on there as possible. Now let's trim our excess paper off. I'm going to use, these are my fabric scissors. These are called Fisker's Easy Action. They're great for people with hand or wrist issues, and I really, really like them. Sometimes I forget about them and I don't use them, and then I'm mad at myself when I find them again and remember I should be using them. I feel like I want to put some kind of embellishments in the top there. So I'm going to see what I have and I'll be back. I'm sure I have a lot, but I got to find it. Well, of course I forgot to turn the camera back on, but I found a bunch of brads and they were sparkly and they matched, and I thought they really set off the card. So I put them on, and now I'm going to cover the backs because I don't like that look. I don't know if you have that kind of phobia about stuff, but I don't like to look at ugly brads, the backs of brads, when I'm looking at my card. So I'm gonna just put a 5x7 piece in. If I didn't say already, this is a 5x7 card, and I use Recollections heavyweight cardstock from Michaels for my bases, because I really think that when you get a really sturdy base like this, that you can your card looks more professional, and I don't know, I just like the look of it, and I like the feel of it because it makes me happy. And I just put some tear tape on the back of that, and I'll just have to make sure the ends are really well adhered to take off the backing. My last piece off, and then I'm also going to put a little bit of wet glue in here if I can get it to come out. Of course, a lot of it came out. I just like to make sure that if I use a little wet glue with tear tape, it gives me the ability to move it. If I lay it down and all of a sudden I realize that maybe I put it in the wrong spot, I can move it for a second when I use a little wet glue with my tear tape. Line it up. Ooh, almost lined it up in the wrong spot. Even after we talked about that. It's a little bit bigger, I think, than my card base, and I'll just have to trim that off the edge. See how it's a little bit bigger over here? That's no big deal. I just wanted to make sure that I covered up all those brads, and if I had been a little cheap about my paper and made it a little bit too close to the edge, I wouldn't have been able to make sure that that all of that was covered. Okay. Normally I'd use my paper trimmer for that, but because it's so sticky with that tear tape, it's almost impossible to get it in there and make sure it looks straight. And then if your edge is a little bit rough from doing that, you can take these nail files that you get at the Dollar Tree and just kind of go along the edge and just kind of buff it off. And that makes it so it doesn't, so it doesn't have that weird piece. Then we're going to get my stamp, Made for You by Sandy Parker. And then last but not least, I'm going to get my envelope, and I want my envelope to have a little bit of similar decoration. Well, they don't match 100%, but they're close. And then I have this purple, same company, I think. Not completely straight. And this one, I don't know if you can see this, but it has a weird edge on it. That doesn't bother me. I can live with that. The purple doesn't match as well as the pink does, but on the off chance that somebody's going to be comparing those, I really doubt they will. I hope that you enjoyed this, that you give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Please tell your friends about me on social media because I love that. And thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.